Well, welcome everyone. This is the Unfair Advantage, where I interview founders and we dig into what ultimately gives them the unfair advantage. So very happy to have Ayden Syal with us today. Ayden is the CEO and co-founder of MOGL. Welcome. I really appreciate founders spending the time. It's one of your, if not your most precious commodities as a founder, so appreciate it. Maybe a good place to start, Ayden, would be, I think a lot of people have some vague awareness of the regulatory changes that happened in college sports, this whole area of NIL. Maybe we start there. Give us some background on what is this NIL thing anyway?
Yeah, great. And Jeremy, pleasure to be here. Peggy, thank you so much for organizing this. It's great to see others in the audience that I'm familiar with. Tom, you've got you on my screen here. So thanks for taking the time out of your guys' day as well. To address your question, Jeremy, name, image, and likeness, right? So in July of 2021, specifically on July 1st of 2021, the NCAA made it permissible for college athletes to monetize their name, image, and likeness. So what that means is historically, college athletes were not able or allowed to monetize their publicity rights or be compensated for anything revolving their notoriety, their platform, or who they are, as collegiate athletes and, effectively influencers. That all changed in July 1st of 2021. Following a number of years of regulatory changes, specifically in August of 2019, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, made it permissible for college athletes in California to be able to monetize their NIL, and that was stated to start in 2023. Not to be outdone by California or create a recruiting advantage for them, other states soon followed suit, notably Florida, Georgia, and Texas, with dates that would permit NIL to be in 2021. Ultimately, the NCAA stepped in at the 11th hour on June 30th of 2021 and said, this is not going to be governed at the statewide level. Throughout the entire country, any U.S. domestic college athlete is able to monetize their name, image, and likeness effective immediately. So yeah, that was some regulation that we were very closely tracking in the years leading up to July 1st of 2021, and more than happy to talk about those details as well.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, I think we are always thinking about incumbents when we think about startups. Normally you're entering into a market where there's a bunch of big players already there, and as a startup, what you maybe have the ability to compete on is there's a new enabling technology or there's some other shift that is happening that presents an opportunity for a new startup. And it's pretty rare for a startup to have really a blue ocean completely, a regulatory change opening up a completely new space. Maybe can you talk to us about that? I mean, what do you think is different about tackling a new opportunity that's just wide open versus one where you're trying to compete your way in?
Yeah, I mean, the short of it is you can effectively make a market, right? And it's a brand new opportunity, but you can really dictate how the specific players within the space are going to be interacting within the market and the value that you're going to be delivering. So for us in particular, right, our core value that we deliver is for athlete influencers. We provide them a seamless, safe, and secure marketplace for them to connect to paid opportunities to monetize their name, image, and likeness. So those can include appearances, endorsements, social media campaigns, autograph signings, and really the plethora of different ways that you can think of influencers, monetizing their platform. But then more importantly, in many regards, is how we interact with brands, right? The value that we deliver to these brands is the ability to reach Gen Z and next-gen audiences at scale and with precision by leveraging the influence, the notoriety, and frankly, the social media performance that these athletes offer. And what it really enables these brands to do is to target historically hard to reach audiences and hard to reach markets at scale and with precision throughout the country, on a national level. For us, when we first started, right, so we launched the platform on July 1st of 2021, but we had started building it in the back half of 2019. So given the fact that we already had an MVP and individuals such as yourself and Platform Venture Studio helped us to really build onto that platform and, bring a much more sophisticated offering to market, it helped us to turn on the platform right on July 1st of 2021 before people were even talking about this. And it enabled us to build a user base on both sides of the marketplace, both, leading up to July 1st of 2021 and then following it as well.
I remember it well. So in any startup, it inevitably gets hard. You have a honeymoon period when it's easy, and then every founder hits some kind of wall. So what turned out to be much harder than you expected about NIL?
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to that honeymoon period because I don't think it's necessarily come yet. I can certainly say that while we've grown tremendously, there's definitely still areas for improvement and areas where I would like things to be much more seamless. But I think the thing that we were most surprised by when we first started was that even though we knew that there was tremendous value in being able to deliver brands the opportunity to reach these audiences at scale and at a much more affordable and effective rate, what we didn't recognize is that we didn't have any case studies, we didn't have any work samples, we didn't have any data that would support the overall solution and the value to brands. Now, we could obviously tie into professional athletes and their traditional sponsorships, endorsements, and influencer campaigns, and leverage some of the data that we had done with them prior to July 1st of 2021. But more than anything else, you're basically trying to sell an offering without actually any data because you're in your initial phases trying to just acquire customers. So it took a lot of trust on the brand's part to trust that this solution would be effective and to trust that our team could execute it. But then secondarily as well, when we first started the company, we definitely thought that it was going to be kind of an if you build it, they will come scenario. Why wouldn't a brand just come on and post a campaign and recruit all of these athletes to do social posts or appear at events? It's so easy. Why wouldn't they do it? And what we learned, particularly in the first 6 months, but we continue to evolve in the way that we work with these brands, is that the majority of these larger national brands in particular are accustomed to working in a much more agency type model with managed services and having their agency partners do it for them. So we kind of had to address that working relationship that they were accustomed to, while also identifying ways that we could do this, seamlessly and at scale, because at the end of the day, we weren't building an agency, but we did need to be upfront with regards to a lot of the services that we were initially providing to these brands. And that was certainly something that we did not anticipate when we first started.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I do think this phrase, if you build it, they will come, has probably caused more damage than many phrases in Silicon Valley. I think it's definitely leads to some not very effective thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to get kind of stuck in the weeds while you're building a company, right? You think, all right, all we're doing is reading about the influencer marketing opportunity with college athletes and how big NIL is going to be. But then what you don't necessarily have foresight into or awareness of is that even though you are so in the weeds and this is your life, and you're living and breathing this every day, not every brand is spending all of their time thinking about the new and innovative ways in which you can reach your target audience. A lot of them are just going to work every day, trying to do what they're asked to, which are, in many cases, much more traditional offerings and requests.
Yep. I think a very good lesson there about meeting the customer where they are, and really understanding their worldview. Maybe we can talk a little bit about sort of influencer marketing generally. I mean, influencer marketing's been around for a while now. I think increasingly well understood. What is different about using college athletes as influencers? What is maybe special to athletes?
Yeah, I think number one, more than anything else, is the authenticity and their ability to reach a network that they are peers with, as opposed to just a massive following audience for a celebrity. These athletes are on campus, in class, with their target audience, which are, primarily college students, who have, pretty significant purchasing power nowadays, and also are heavily influenced by their peers, because if they use specific products or if they like specific restaurants, for example, well, their experience is actually very similar to an individual college student's. So the authenticity is certainly something that delivers a lot of value here. But then secondarily as well, the ability to do this at scale is really unique. There's nearly 500,000 college athletes in the US. 450,000 about are US based and not international student athletes. So you're able to test specific markets. So say if you wanted to run a campaign in Columbus, Ohio, and if you see significant performance and results, then it's really easy to expand that pilot program to include, Austin, Texas, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Miami, et cetera. So that's one area as well. And then the data supports all of this, which is perhaps the most compelling part. On average, athletes on the MOGL platform deliver a 19.1% engagement rate across social media platforms, specifically Instagram and TikTok. That's 5 times the average influencer average across those two platforms. And the reason why, more than anything else, is because their audience is really, really engaged because they are peers of them. They're not just, following Selena Gomez or Taylor Swift or Cristiano Ronaldo. They have the same lived experiences, which enables these overall campaigns to perform much better.
Got it. So I remember when you were starting out, you were targeting small regional businesses, but MOGL at the scale today, I mean, you're now supporting global brands like Toyota. So maybe share with us some stories around how you built credibility to go from a local, I think a burger chain. I remember at some point, how do you go from a burger chain to a global brand? What is the process there?
Yeah, the short answer of it is just with regards to expanding the sophistication of the offering. But to tell you a little bit of some stories, right? So when we first founded the business, all of our initial pitch decks, all of our market sizing, the entire business plan was rooted around this is a massive opportunity for local businesses that surround college campuses. Because while they want to reach those undergraduate student bodies and derive, a lion's share of their revenue from those customers, they can't just go and put up a billboard on the quad, say, at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend. So we really, really focused on the local opportunity to start, because in many cases, those are the brands that are going to be more accustomed or willing to manage a campaign in a self-service capacity on a marketplace, given how streamlined it is, and they don't have the ability to just text or email these athletes to engage with them. But the way that we were able to kind of go upstream and work not only with your large global brands, your Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 brands, but also large networks of franchises, was that we were able to, after about 2 years, 18 months to 2 years of campaigns, and about 30,000 deliverables later, we were able to guarantee results. And so what I mean by that is by really leaning into and investing in first-party data into the platform and automating the overall matching between athletes and brands, we're able to say, okay, if you spend $100,000 with us, we'll guarantee 5 million impressions directly within your target audience. So say that's 18 to 30-year-old males who have an affinity or interest in sports in the Southeast. So we can build all of those target audiences and then deliver it at impression or at CPMs, or cost per impressions, that are far below the traditional industry average, because that engagement rate that I referenced previously is so high. So it really changed the way that we are able to interact with these brands. Initially, right, is, hey, you should work with MOGL because college athletes enable you to reach these younger audiences, and we can deliver all of these unique concepts and campaign creative ideas, and you're able to do it nationally. And then kind of like hope for the best, right? You're looking for that like viral organic impression moment. Whereas now we still do all of that, but now we guarantee based on their spend level that they're going to reach that audience for at a rate that's cheaper than what they would do, for example, on meta advertising. So it's not only taking the core constructs and the core value out of NIL and the unique campaign creatives that you can do, but also guaranteeing results so that brands don't have as much of an inhibition when trying to buy, right? So that certainly helped with Toyota. You referenced Toyota, right? So Toyota was an interesting one because we had actually done a pilot campaign with them around the HBCU Classic at MetLife Stadium 2 years prior to doing the really large campaigns that we're doing with them today. And that's actually the case with a lot of the brands that we worked with. You know, we've been in contact with them since 2021, 2022. We did pilot campaigns, you know, 25K, 50K campaigns. And now, you know, based on those initial results and how they understand how we work, now when we reapproach them and say, hey, that was fun, but let's do something big here and we'll guarantee these results for you. Now we're getting, you know, 6-7 figure RFPs. So it's a long game for sure. That's why you need to build a really significant pipeline and have hundreds of conversations every week with these brands, because, you know, the sales cycles can be quite long.
Yeah, no shortcuts. The overnight success actually took a long time. That's really good.
Yeah.
Maybe we can take a step back. You know, we at Platform like to nerd out over marketplace models. One of the big problems in any marketplace is the initial chicken and egg problem. You can't find supply if you don't have demand. You can't find demand if you don't have supply. With MOGL, where did you start? Did you start with the supply or the demand, and how did you think about the chicken and egg problem?
Yeah, so we definitely started with the supply, which in our case is athletes, right? The inventory of athletes that are available to be worked with. The way that we solved for that is once the initial website was created, which was somewhere in Q3, Q4 of 2019, we started basically acquiring athlete contact information for a wait list. And we advertised what was coming and, you know, how it would help them, benefit them to get paid and be able to monetize their NIL. And then we built awareness for what we were building basically as we were building it on Instagram live series with famous professional athletes or sportscasters or influencer marketing executives. Or at the time, it was actually COVID. So Clubhouse was really big. And we were constantly in all of these Clubhouse rooms just talking about NIL. And if you want to learn more, here's our website, join the wait list for priority access. Your profile will already be created, and then you just need to simply opt in. So we built the athlete side of the house first. While we worked with a small subset, maybe 50 or so brands prior to 2021 on in general influencer campaigns, just to figure out what obstacles and bottlenecks we could solve with product and technology. We definitely built the supply side because, especially in our early days, that was the biggest selling point, right? On July 1st of 2021, we could start reaching out to brands, say, hey, NIL is here. You can work with college athletes. And oh, by the way, we already have 3,000 in our marketplace ready and available to work with. So that was certainly a big part of it. And then my co-founder, Brandon Wimbush, played quarterback at the University of Notre Dame. And given his platform, it really helped us to build awareness with athletes. And the way that we did that more than anything else was Instagram Lives, which maybe we should get back to, but we haven't done that in quite some time.
Yeah, well, you also mentioned Clubhouse, which is a term I haven't, or name I haven't heard in a long while. That feels like a throwback to the COVID era.
Yep, absolutely.
Interesting to think about that. So again, staying on the topic of sort of marketplace models, there's a lot of things that you can measure in a marketplace because they are complicated. I mean, other than revenue, which every business has to measure, what are the top metrics that you use to track how MOGL is operating as a marketplace and to track the health of the marketplace?
Yeah, and this is something that's really evolved over the course of really our journey here, and you've been very involved with it given your experience within marketplaces. Initially, we really focused on what we referred to as the fill rate. So it's, okay, how many deals got posted this month? How many of them hired an athlete? What was the overall deal to athlete ratio? And how can we make sure that as many athletes as possible on the platform are getting a deal so that they continue to log in? That's evolved pretty tremendously because what we realized is that it's not a one-to-one relationship, and that even though a brand who posts a deal may hire one athlete, that could very well not be what they were looking for. They may have been looking for 100 athletes. So now everything that we do is actually rooted in a core metric called time to value. So when you think about the value that a brand is getting from MOGL, they are not going to get any value from MOGL whatsoever if an athlete doesn't at least fulfill a deliverable. So say that's a social media post, say that's an appearance, downloading an app, things like that. And we want to make that as quick as humanly possible. And we launched MOGL AI this year, which really automates a lot of that, both from a customer support perspective, but also from just getting the deal posted. The AI now takes all of the brand's desires and values and target areas and builds the campaign for them. But so we look at a metric called time to value, which is basically, okay, if a brand posted a campaign at day 0, how many days does it take for them to get their first deliverable completed? We don't care how many athletes you hire. We don't care how many athletes you invite. We don't care how many jobs you actually post. The only thing we care about is, did you get a deliverable completed in less than 7 days time frame, which it should be significantly lower than that, but we're continuing to automate that. Some of the things that elongate that are shipping products, for example. So time to value is a big one. And then less of a marketplace metric, but one that we are very much focused on, given our evolution into effectively a paid media company, is the CPM that we're delivering these impressions at. So when we're managing campaigns on behalf of large national brands such as Toyota or DoorDash or O'Keeffe's or all these other ones that we work with, the big thing that we're focusing on is, okay, if Meta is delivering CPMs for traditional ads at $3.50 or $5, let's make sure that we're underneath that. And internally, we're delivering this at less than $2 today, which is really compelling for us. But every campaign differs.
Fantastic. So I just want to do a quick audience time check. I see questions are coming in already, which is great. I think Ayden and I will probably do another 5 or 10 minutes. So get thinking about questions for Ayden as we sort of start to wrap this up. So Ayden, another common thing that happens in startups, and I know you've been through it, is the pivot, right? Something that's always hard to navigate. Maybe you can share a story of one or more than one, if you like, pivot that you made along the way? What prompted the pivot? Was it the right pivot in retrospect? Do you think you pivoted soon enough?
Yeah, there's two that jump out to me, so I can definitely highlight two of them. The first one, more than anything else, was actually focusing more on our core competencies and our core value adds. So in the first year and a half, people were tackling NIL in a variety of different ways. This was in the kind of highlight period of Web3 and crypto and NFTs. So we built all these different solutions for athletes because we wanted to be the one-stop shop for athletes to monetize their NIL. So you could create NFTs on the marketplace. You could disclose all of your activity to the universities. You could manage your contracts, things like that. So we built solutions for universities. It was front-end marketplace solutions with back-end compliance monitoring tools. And that really helped us to add more athletes to the marketplace and then enabled us to reach local businesses. But eventually what we realized was that the juice wasn't necessarily worth the squeeze. And what I mean by that is the budgets continued to decrease from a university perspective. And then secondarily, the sales cycles were really long. So while we still field inbounds on the university software side of the business, we don't actually commercialize that anymore. And we're not doing any outbound sales there. And we really kind of took a broader lens look at the marketplace or the landscape and said, okay, what is that we do exceptionally well? And what is our North Star? And it's influencer marketing with athletes. So the biggest thing there was stop focusing on everything and just focus on one thing that we do really well and going deeper, which led us to our second pivot or evolution more than anything else, was that we recognized that organic impressions were not going to carry the day, and that relying solely on organic impressions wasn't going to enable us to get the necessary budgets that we needed from these brands. So that was where we really invested in first-party data and AI automation to deliver guaranteed impressions at below market CPMs. So really, from trying to do everything at once to just doing one thing extremely well, to then going deeper and delivering more solutions with regards to sophistication, automation, and guaranteed results. That was the big thing for us. And I would say that we were probably a little too late on it. As with anything, if you're getting paid, you don't really want to turn off that spigot. And we were making money from our university business. In 2022, it was probably actually our largest revenue driver, but we knew that what we were building was significantly larger than a university software business. So we ultimately, effectively turned that off and really focused on what we built the company to truly be.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge, important point. I think that even harder to conduct a pivot when, as you say, it's a big source of revenue, but there's a global optimum, even if you found the local optimum. So hats off to you for navigating that. As we kind of bring this home, at least this part of the conversation, might be worth talking about one of the things you touched on earlier. So you mentioned your co-founder, Brandon. I mean, Brandon is no longer with the company. Mm-hmm. This is not that uncommon in startups, but co-founder splits can also be very destructive. So what advice would you give to other founders who might be listening around kind of how to manage and navigate parting ways with a co-founder? Any lessons there?
Yeah, it's interesting. They often say, don't go into business with your friends and don't maybe found a company with your friends, but I would actually push back on that. I think that the reason why Brandon and I were able to split so amicably is because when we were evaluating founding the company together and formally going into business together, he was someone that I can inherently trust more than anything else, and I knew where his moral compass was. So ultimately, when he elected to leave the company It wasn't due to belief that the company wasn't going to succeed. He was just looking for a different challenge. And he hadn't been growing as much as he would have liked in his role here. But the thing is that he approached it in a way that a friend would. And what I mean by that is that it made for a very smooth split because he had the best interest in the company at heart. He wanted to make sure that his equity holdings, for example, wouldn't inhibit us to raise capital or grow in the future. He wanted to make sure that from a outward projection standpoint, that him departing the company had no bearings on the overall company success or the value of what we were delivering. And we split incredibly amicably because at the end of the day, he was a friend, is a friend. We speak still every week. And it's because I could trust him inherently and like knew his moral compass. A lot of the times, especially, you know, with all the different founder matching tools out there, you're just being matched to a co-founder based on complementary skill sets, kind of like a yin and yang. If you're the salesperson, you're the engineer. But I don't think that in many ways that goes deep enough with regards to what's actually crucial to founding a company together. So yeah, I mean, I think that we navigated it as smoothly as we possibly could. Brandon's still involved with the company. He's still an advisor. He's still very involved in our marketing efforts as well, which is, you know, kind of a testament to him and his belief in the company. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, I think it's amazing. And obviously as an investor, I was very concerned at the time because things can go badly wrong. And again, props to you guys for handling it the way you did. So before we hand over to the audience for questions, we have to ask the question about the unfair advantage, since that's the name of the show here. So what is the unfair advantage that you think MOGL has? What is that edge that you think others can't easily copy?
Yeah, there's really three that I would think of, right? Notably, first mover advantage, brand recognition within the space, and then our people. So on the first one, like we mentioned, right, we built a fully built platform that was launched on July 1st of 2021. And that enabled us to really hit the ground running when nobody else was even thinking about this. Within 6 months, probably 50 plus NIL startups launched, but we were already well on our way. We were the only game in town, and that really helped us. But then secondarily, we built a significant moat from a technology standpoint into the platform. So a lot of our core value is the automatic compliance disclosures from an NCAA perspective, the size and breadth of the network, the first party data that we offer as well, right? Every athlete has to authenticate when they join the platform. And as a result, we're not relying on third party tools or third party data solutions that are inaccurate. And it enables us to really deliver the guaranteed results that I've mentioned before. So the first mover advantage is certainly a big one for us. Kind of dovetailing with that is the recognition and the brand loyalty that we've built in the space, all the way back to our Clubhouse days, right? We were constantly talking about the opportunity. We had cool branding, a great founding story. One of us, not myself, was a pretty high profile celebrity. And that really helped us to build formidable brand recognition. And then with regards to delivering value to the schools, they're getting the automated compliance disclosures and they're seeing that their athletes, not just the starting point guard or the starting quarterback, are getting deals. And they're true legitimate deals with real brands, both at the local level and the national level. So that brand recognition is certainly something that can't be replicated. And frankly, I think would be very challenging for a new incumbent in the space to build, especially because now universities are used to being inundated with inbounds for NIL, whatever the offering is. And then lastly is our people. I think as with any startup, I don't think what I'm about to say is revolutionary, but you have to hire the right people from the start. You have to fire fast. And then more importantly, you need to recognize that you don't have all the money in the bank that you would like. And so you're going to have a lot of pain along the way with regards to who ultimately comes on to the team. And we certainly dealt with our fair share of that. But now today, our team is so well oiled. We've got true industry experts across each of our core pillars. Our director of customer success has over 15 years of customer success in Gen Z and millennial research. Our VP of sales joined us from Influential, which sold for $500 million to Publicis Group and was the largest influencer agency in the world. Our director of product and technology and my co-founder, Matthew, is a marketplace expert and guru. He spent time at Winolo. He also was an entrepreneur in residence at Eventbrite. He's a founder himself with one successful exit. So we really have an incredible exec team. And it took us years to get here, but the people is what really differentiates us.
Fantastic. Time for some questions from the audience. If you want to come off mic and ask live, you are welcome to do so. Please put your camera on if you can, if you're going to do that, or you can ask questions in the comments here. We have one already from, I'm going to butcher your name, I apologize, Shreya or Shreya. Question is, just to be clear, by deliverable, do you mean something like a post or a reel? So maybe just define a deliverable for us.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. So from a social media perspective, it can be an in-feed post, an Instagram story, or an Instagram reel. The same applies for TikTok, obviously. But then also other deliverables would include downloading an app, would include uploading content to a training application, appearing at a meet and greet or an autograph signing, and a variety of other things. But it's whatever you are compensating the athlete to do.
Great. Who else has a question? Michael.
Thanks, Jeremy. Ayden, really cool idea. Been following you since the start. So I guess that will be 5+ years now. So good on you, brother. I'm curious how you think about lifetime value on your athlete side. I live in a part of the country where things are coming down into the high school arena. I live in Southern Orange County. High school is doing a lot of stuff around this space. But I'm just curious, you've got a certain landing window and some of those athletes move on and continue to be really popular people, and others, their popularity probably dwindles once they leave a college campus. But how do you think about lifetime value for that side of the market?
Yeah, and thanks, Michael. Appreciate you following us for all these years. Yeah, when you think about lifetime value in the marketplace, it's really both concrete value and then maybe some passive value, right? From a concrete standpoint, it's how many brands did you build a relationship with? And what ultimately have you been compensated on a monthly, annually, in totality basis? But then secondarily, from a more passive basis, we provide athletes data on all of their social following, their audience insights, and it becomes effectively a digital portfolio and a digital resume. It showcases all of their recent posts across their social platforms, their skills and interests, their ratings and reviews from brands, their social performance data, and their audience breakdown. So that's kind of a passive value is, hey, if you sign up, it's completely free and you basically get your own media kit. Secondarily, we have resources available for athletes on the platform on financial literacy, taxes, contract and legal review, brand building, best practices when creating different content, AI tools with regards to generating your video or editing your videos. So those are some more passive ways that we provide value to these athletes. And then to kind of address one of your astute observations is, hey, we've got a short window to work with these athletes, 4 or 5. Now it's like 6 years in some cases, but the COVID years going away. The benefit for these athletes is, like you mentioned, like 99% of them are not going to go pro. They're not going to lose a majority of that overall following. So a lot of the athletes that still use the platform graduated, 2-3 years ago. because they can still make, $500, $1,000 a month for doing these social media posts. A lot of, Notre Dame standouts that, didn't make it in the pros still continue to use the platform, for example. We would like to, be more engaged with those athletes that ultimately graduate from school, but there's a bit of a disconnect with our overall value to the brands, because we're delivering them the ability to reach next gen audiences on campus. So yeah, there's always ways that we can improve on our lifetime value analysis, but that's the general overview.
Thank you.
Lloyd, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just thought it was an easier way to do it in a small group. So I've got an assumption that you feel free to say, nope, your assumption's wrong, and then a question on that. What I'm getting out of this is that, and I'm not too involved with I'm not involved with the influencer marketplace. You're only tangentially aware of it. I'm at a newspaper level, you'd say. And it seems that your strength is reaching out to college students and college campuses. Reaching out to. That's who the advertisers want to reach, put it that way, right? So I would assume that there are other influencer marketplaces, maybe for travel, for fashion. Is there a play to roll these up into a larger organization? And would that work? Would that not work? Why is the process fragmented right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So yeah, like our core value more than anything else is actually not brands reaching college athletes, though that's, they're going to reach college athletes by doing this, but it's them reaching their audience, right? So all of those college students, all of the 13 to 24-year-old followers that they have, that's the true value, right? You're reaching younger consumers and advertising your products. With regards to the roll-up, so I think what's unique about our offering beyond the value of college athletes and how incredible they are as influencers is the technology that we've built. So our AI matching engine, the ability to both automate and optimize for performance directly within the platform, leveraging first-party data, does enable us at some unclear later date to expand into other influencer subsets, right? You have your lifestyle creators, you have your podcasters, everyone throughout the audio and streaming space. This technology has broad-based applications beyond college athletics into the entire influencer and creator economy. But first, you need the foundations of the technology. How easy is it for brands to create their campaigns? How sophisticated is the matching technology that they're going to reach the athletes that will help them to deliver or help them get the results that they're looking for within minutes? And then how easy is the overall campaign management and payment process as well? We think that we have that part now figured out. There's obviously ways to improve, but like where the technology is really great. Now we need to get more and more market share within collegiate athletics and NIL, and then we can evaluate potential roll-ups or expansion, because a lot of these influencer networks, they're frankly, managed on a spreadsheet, right? Influencer agencies and influencer networks, so they would get a lot of value from our technology. And we've certainly had those conversations, but it's not something that we need to do right now because our differentiation outside of technology is the niche of influencers that we provide.
Thank you.
So we have another question in here in the comment thread. So it says, hey, Ayden, you mentioned you provide guaranteed 5 million views to the target audience. How do you make that happen? I'm assuming it's within a certain time.
Yeah, so it depends on the usage rights that the brand negotiates and what the overall content is, right? If you're doing a Valentine's Day campaign, we're not going to run it, post February 14th or 15th or whatever day. The way that we do it is basically, so athletes will post the content. So say it's an Instagram reel, whether it's professionally produced or UGC produced, then we go into our ads manager, which every athlete's hooked up to when they authenticate via the platform, and we build the lookalike audiences based on that athlete's followers. So if a brand wants to reach a specific audience demographic, age, gender, geographic distribution, interests, affinities, things like that, we build the target audience based on those parameters, and then we run the advertising dollars behind the content that's already been posted by athletes. Now, what's unique about that is because the athletes have such an engaged audience and the lookalike audiences that we're building are very similar to the athletes' audiences, the performance is really, really exceptional. So we can deliver these impressions at a really, really cheap rate for the brands, and then obviously ourselves internally as well.
What do you mean by lookalike audience?
So a lookalike audience is, say, my audience is, I'm 30 for reference, right? So say my audience is 25 to 40-year-old people interested in startups, finance, and college sports, because that's my background. So if we're working with JP Morgan and they want to, use me as an influencer, well, then we're going to take that audience, my audience, the demographics, the interests, things like that, and then we're going to build additional audiences within, say, the Meta Ads Manager based on that target. So it's a lookalike to my audience. So, and then generally speaking, brands will work with the athletes who have the audience that they want to target, and then if you build lookalike audiences that mimic or parallel that, it's going to perform much better.
Ayden, can I ask you a quick question? I've been, you may or may not have thought of this for your tech, but I've been curious watching Sprout Social recently and what they're doing with social listening, partly because of like Venly with our social graph, so when they're looking at all of trends, so an influencer and all of the different things that they're posting across different channels, then to take all of that and put it back to a brand to say, hey, this is kind of the insights we're seeing about your brand. It's not necessarily a campaign, but are you getting brands that are asking you for those types of insights? I saw something with Honda recently, and I think you said you did something with Toyota. So Sprout Social had just did a big campaign about that recently. That was like their spotlight campaign. So I was wondering if you're thinking about that at all with your own technology.
Yeah, the short answer is we have to do this often. So based on a minimum budget threshold, brands will traditionally ask for these insights. It's typically referred to as a brand lift study. So, what was, my overall, what's the overall kind of momentum that we generated here, and what's the sentiment of the content, and what are people saying about this? It's really, really common, especially with regards to movie releases. So if a brand is at a minimum threshold, then we provide a brand lift study. It's not something that we do internally with our own technology today. We don't have social listening capabilities, so we use third-party vendors for it today. But it's certainly something that we're evaluating as we continue to expand here.
Okay, Mark, you've had your hand up. I think you may be the last one we have time for.
Sure. So I guess, hey, awesome to meet you. But my question is, when you say you have an AI system in the back end, is that something you built yourself with your team, or is this something that you just do API calls to OpenAI and get it to optimize certain things?
Yeah, it's a combination. So we've built it all ourselves. We do leverage, OpenAI and other solutions for the LLMs and the matching technology and things like that. But all of the data that gets fed into it, and with regards to how we engineer all of that, that's what we've done. The matching algorithm's proprietary as well, but we do use OpenAI and other tools in order to actually execute that. If you can't tell, I am not the chief technology officer at the company, but yeah, it's all proprietary internally, but we do use open source models.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ayden, for spending the time with us. I know it's valuable time, some great insights there. And this has been The Unfair Advantage. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. Pleasure to meet you all.
Thanks, Ayden. Thanks, Jeremy.
Ayden, thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you.